And so we will now move to our third pair, who are both folks involved in public office.
Good evening, everybody.
It looks like you're in a vehicle.
I am off to fulfill my responsibilities and vote. And I'm so sorry I'm doing it from the car, but I trust you all understand. I was not going to miss this, no matter what.
Well, thank you. We're car or no car. We're happy to have you here. And then we have, what we have here, folks, is we have Representative Dean Phillips, who is a Democratic member of Congress from Minnesota, and a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus. And we have Gary Herbert, a Republican who just finished 2 terms as the governor of Utah. So just finished, right, Governor? Just
Well, actually, 12 years. So
yeah. Oh, 12 years. Okay. So 12 years. Okay.
He's been the longest serving governor in America.
Oh, all right. All right. Well, we're happy to have both of you here tonight. And you don't know each other, I assume.
I don't think we've met.
Yeah.
No, we don't. But Governor, I'm a big fan. You're the longest serving governor. I'm one of the shortest serving Congress members. So it's we're a good combination already.
But you both know how to get reelected, because you got reelected, Dean. So there we have it. But I think you will discover some things you have in common here, gentlemen. So you've heard the others talk, be interviewed, and so the first question is, how have the events of the past week affected you? And I'd like to start with you, Congressman Phillips.
Well, Bill, I want to thank you for what you've put together, and to all of you on this call tonight. You're not just the braver angels, you are the bravest angels, and the ones that our country needs so much right now. So I want to thank you. You know, the past week has changed all of us. There's no question. I was on the House floor when the insurrection began with colleagues on both sides of the aisle during the proceedings. And I'll tell you about 3 very distinct feelings I had that night, Bill. The first of which was anger. There's no question. At the very moment that we were told to take cover, put on our gas masks, we heard a pounding at the door. We knew that at that time, one of the best case scenarios was that we would be taken hostage. God knows what would have been worse. My second reaction was fear for our country. I couldn't disbelieve that this could be happening in the United States. You know, I also want to share something very personal and poignant, and something left an indelible mark on me, which was I, at that very moment, encouraged my Democratic colleagues sitting with me on the Democratic side of the House chamber to run with me to the Republican side, because we had reasons to believe that those who had penetrated the Capitol were coming for Democrats. And as we did so, I realized very, very distinctly that many of my colleagues could join me in changing the side of the floor that we were on, but they couldn't change their skin color when it came to what was forthcoming. And I share that with all of you because we have those moments in our life that stay with us, and you never know when they're going to happen. And it happened for me at that moment. But I got to tell you, the most important, and it's where it dovetails with what we're talking about tonight, which is no matter what had occurred, you know, on that moment, we were all Americans. It wasn't Democrats, Republicans anymore. If blood had spilled, it all would have been red. If we had died the next morning, the sky would have been blue. And that's what sticks with me. And I want to recognize tonight that we all have to take a step back before we take a big giant leap forward. And that is my prerogative. And I'm grateful for the governor for being here, and to all of you. But I also have to say this, and you all know it. I'm preaching to the converted right now. You are the better angels. You are the ones. We are the ones that are working together, recognize our priorities. We need to extend invitations and have conversations with people right now who are not open to that idea. And that is what has changed me. And that's going to be my life mission moving forward.
Well, thank you, Congressman. That's very, very moving. You were right in the middle of all that. Appreciate your sharing that and sharing your fear and your learnings from what happened there. So, Governor, how would you answer the question of how the events of the past week affected you?
Well, Bill, first let me say I'm honored to be with all of you today, and I appreciate the good words of the congressman and others who have spoken. I come from a perspective of a governor of a state who has a lot of friends throughout the country. I'm the past chairman of the National Governors Association and also the Western Governors Association, as well as the president of the Council of State Governments, working with a lot of legislators. So I have friends on both sides of the aisle, different philosophies, that all were angry, disappointed. It doesn't comprehend, it doesn't compute. People who claim to be patriots, and yet seditionary acts as we storm the Capitol, our sacred edifice that represents our democratic republic to the world. So for me, it was a time of just complete non-able to comprehend and compute the activities of the day, and could not understand the motivation. Again, I've learned more and since as we've sorting through the facts, and I certainly don't want to overgeneralize, because I think that there are good, honorable people that were there protesting, and as, like a lot of things in life, a few spoil it for the many. But those people who went to Capitol Hill and conducted themselves makes me angry. It makes me disappointed. I'm discouraged about the whole conflict out there. And frankly, I guess if I ask myself, are you surprised? And if I was going to be honest about it, I guess I'm not as surprised as I should be. We've had so much divisiveness over the last decade. It's not just this administration either, by the way, although they may have put more kerosene on the fire. But we've had divisiveness, and it goes back to our cable television views. We're siloed. We don't discuss things. There's no such thing as dialogue. There's my way, and that's the right way. It's the correct way. Your way is the wrong way. Republicans go to Fox News. Democrats go to MSNBC. We get siloed, and we become so divisive. Our campaigns, and Utah is a pretty tame state compared to what I see around the country, but we spend, hundreds of millions of dollars tearing down the opposition, not promoting ourselves, but tearing down the opposition. And so this fomenting of anger and divisiveness has led to this, I think, a divisiveness that really has exploded this past week with this onslaught on the Capitol. So maybe we shouldn't be as surprised as we think. That being the case, the question really is, what do we do going forward?
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you. And that's what we need to be thinking about. And we're, I want to, before I ask each of you to say how we can move forward, I want to note that you both have built careers around being bipartisan. And that's one of the reasons why we're so glad to have both of you here. And so, Representative Phillips, how would you begin our conversation about how we move forward? So, Dean, I don't know. I know you're in that. It's an amazing picture here, and in the
the I'm back with you.
Building. No, it's an amazing thing. If we had orchestrated this, we couldn't have done it better. Okay.
No, well, yeah, welcome. This is your house, everybody.
Yeah, this is our house, and so to start us off, Congressman, how do we move forward?
I got to say, Bill, I think it was Steve Hartman from CBS the other day who said the soul of America cannot be ransacked, and the solution to what ails us isn't under a dome. And that dome he's talking about is the one right there behind me. And we can't legislate compassion. We can't legislate love. We can't legislate understanding or listening or decency. That comes from all of us in our hearts, followed by our heads. And my advice, my invitation is that we start extending invitations, doing what you're doing what all of you, I think 4,000 or so on this call are doing tonight, which is to recognize there's something so much more important than our politics. And that's the preservation of our republic, our communities, and even our lives. And this is the first week of my entire life where I felt that my life was threatened. Next week it will be as well. And I'm sharing that with my brothers and sisters on both sides of the aisle. And I just want to express gratitude, most importantly, because I think to answer your question, Bill, the real answer here is gratitude. And as one who stayed in Washington after the horrors of this week, I walked the halls of the Capitol every day since I've been in town, since last Wednesday, just to thank people, to thank the officers that were heroic, to thank the Capitol staff, whose names you'll never know and jobs are just as important as mine. Our staffs, my fellow members, and there's something remarkable that happens when you express gratitude and that humility that goes with it. And that's how we experience repair and rehabilitation. And I think it's time that our country collectively start expressing a little more gratitude for what we have, because it's precious, it's fragile, and it's in our hands. So with that, I say Godspeed and gratitude to all of you, because I love you all, no matter your politics, no matter how you eat, how you pray, the color of your skin. I love you all, and can't wait to see more of you and get to work together.
That's really quite beautiful. Would you mind telling us maybe a little story about somebody you expressed gratitude to and what their response was this week?
Yeah, you know, I tell you, one of the most poignant moments I've had, Bill, in the past, gosh, in a long time, was the night of the horrors. As you all know, we spent, after we escaped the chamber, we spent about 7 hours in a safe room together, Democrats and Republicans, which was powerful itself. We were determined to not let these insurgents and the siege interrupt our constitutional duty to affirm this election. We were resolved to get back to the floor, which we did late that night, as you all know. I think at 3:42 in the morning is when we finally got the work done. Sometime around 1 a.m., my colleague Tom Malinowski and I left the House chamber just to take a walk through the Capitol. It was dark outside. It was now quiet. You would never know what had just transpired hours before, bloodshed and rampage and siege. And we walked through the most beautiful room in America, which I think is the U.S. Rotunda here at the Capitol. And it was quiet. And we saw a guy on his hands and knees with a garbage bag, picking up the remnants of the siege. Tons of garbage, plastic bottles and bulletproof vests and sticks and clubs and all kinds of things. And lo and behold, it was our colleague, Representative Andy Kim from New Jersey. And he had tears in his eyes when he told us that he couldn't stand the sight of seeing our rotunda, every one of our rotunda, so defaced, and that he wasn't going to rest and quit until he picked up every last piece of garbage on the floor. And it's that spirit. We may be members of Congress, but we're more importantly custodians. And literally, Andy Kim that night was the custodian for all of us. And that's the spirit we need. And that's one little story I want to share, because in all the darkness, you can always find light if you look hard enough. And that's why Braver Angels is going to illuminate the way for all of us. So I love you all, and I'm grateful.
Thank you, Congressman. So, Governor, how do we move forward?
Well, I think there's a variety of things we need to do. One of the things we need to probably recognize is I'm not sure everybody wants to move forward. There are some people that like the divisiveness. Maybe it gives them more authority, power, they believe. It's a short-term goal, maybe with long-term consequences, but I would hope and I believe that the vast majority do want to do better and be better. But there are some out there that are going to be protagonists on our efforts to try to reconcile and come together. I had a fellow today tell me he thinks we're closer to civil war than we are to reconciliation. Now, these constant bits of divisiveness and anger that's fomenting out there, I can understand his opinion. I think we need to do a better job of communication. I mentioned earlier, we kind of get siloed. We don't listen. I think we need to seek first to understand and then to be understood. We sometimes don't, we do it in reverse order. As I am adamant about my point of view, I'm dogmatic about my position, and I'm right and you must be wrong then. So I think we need to do a lot better job of communication. I think tone matters. And we ought to be moderate in tone. We can be proud conservatives, proud liberals, however you want to label yourself. But as I've told the governors when we come together as the National Governors Association, let's take the label off of our forehead that says Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, and put common sense there in place. And see if we can't, in fact, bring some common sense and a practical aspect of what we're trying to do. And that means finding the common good, actually compromising. Ooh, that would be a scary thing to do. In the method of our founding fathers. They compromised a lot and gave us a great document, our Constitution. So I think communication is important, moderation in tone, and inclusiveness in process. I'm happy to sit down with anybody. They can be diametrically opposed to my policy position, but maybe I can learn and modify and improve. I remember talking to President Obama about the Affordable Care Act and the divisiveness that's created in our country. And I said, Republicans want to, in fact, repeal and replace. And President Obama says, well, I think we can improve the Affordable Care Act. So I said, you want to modify and improve. You know, when you think about that, modify, improve, repeal, and replace with what? Those can come pretty close together. If we had leadership willing to, in fact, let's see if we can't come together on these concepts and principles and come together with something that we can all feel good about and compromise our position and get something better for the whole. So I think we can do a better job of that. I'll just conclude by saying I've heard a lot of talk about faith, and I'm encouraged because of the comments been made. And I too am a man of faith. And I think there's an eternal principle for all of us, no matter what our denomination may be, but we are all children of God, which means we're all brothers and sisters. We're all part of one race. It's called the human race. And consequently, we ought to, as Amania said, you know, we're of the same family. We're brothers and sisters. We may have disagreement, but we should love each other and help each other. What can I do to make your life better as we work together for the common good? So I would add to that faith without works is dead. James taught us that in the New Testament. Again, a principle that we all understand. We need to roll up our sleeves and go to work. My father had a saying that's kind of the Herbert family slogan. He's raised on a farm up in Idaho. He's the hardest working fellow I ever knew. And the family slogan he got from his grandfather, which he used in our family, which I use in my family now. I'm a husband and father, now married 50 years. I have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. I kept the balance of power even, and 17 grandchildren. That's my primary duty, is to make sure life is good for them and to do my part in making the family stable, which is the foundation of our society. But he taught us this thing. We call it the 8 W's. Work will win when wishy-washy wishing won't. We all wish things were better. We all wish things were different or better, or however we look at our life, and we wish about it. But as Dad would say, work will win when wishy-washy wishing won't. We have work to do. And I appreciate the fact that the Congressman talked about gratitude. My kids come to me, and I'm a little older, I'm 73 years of age, and they say, Dad or Grandpa, tell us about the good old days. Well, guess what, kids? These are the good old days today. In spite of the pandemic and the challenge that's presented for us, in spite of the events of this past week, we're living in the best time in the history of the world. Now look what we're doing. We're talking to each other around the country. 5,000 people listening in from different countries and all the states. We're communicating, we're learning, we're dialoguing. We're going to be a better person tomorrow because of being on this meeting today, because of technology. We're living longer, healthier lives.
Governor, in terms of our time together, I have to move us along. So
Okay,
I'm going to say a final word, and then I'll ask Congressman Phillips if you want to say a final word.
I'm just saying we live in a great time. We have a responsibility to roll up our sleeves and go to work. We can do better and be better and express gratitude along the way. And if we love our brothers and sisters like we should as children of God, an eternal principle, we will change our conduct and we'll do better.
Thank you, Governor.
Hear, hear.
Yes, so Representative Phillips, final word.
Well, just a gratitude again. You know, what I failed to mention, and I think is perhaps the most important strategy for moving forward, is to, you know, they say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. That is to listen more. And tactically, if we're really going to take steps in a unified way to become the country that I know we can and will, it's going to start with opening our ears as much as our hearts, starting with our ears. And that means me, it means all of you, it means my colleagues in this institution, and particularly the most angry people in the country right now, both on the left and the right. This is happening for a reason, and it's because people don't feel heard. And blame can be cast in all directions on all of us. But the antidote is clear, and it is to open our ears and then our hearts. And you are leading us and illuminating that path forward, and I bless you all, and I can't thank you enough. So let's do this again, and more often and with more of us. Thanks, everybody.
Well, and thanks to both of you. My heart is full listening to you. And after our citizen red blue pairs, to have our political leaders who I know are, are walking the talk. I know both of you have done that and are doing that. So we're very grateful to both of you.